Welcome back to season 6 of Sista Brunch, the podcast that exists to celebrate and share the stories of Black women and gender expansive people thriving in entertainment and media. I mean, 6 seasons of these amazing guests, and there's so many more to go. I am the producer and host of Sista Brunch, and our season 6 co-host, Sean Pipkin West, couldn't join us for this episode. But that is okay because our guest and I have so much to talk about. I got to meet her very briefly when she was honored for her editing work at Sundance 2024. I'm gonna say some names of some projects and see if this sparks anything for you, because every single one of these I was like, oh my goodness, Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody, How to Die Alone, Insecure, 911, 20s, Boomerang. These are just a few of the shows that our guest has worked on. She won a Peabody Award for the very important series Surviving R. Kelly, which, my goodness, we learn by the day how important that one is, because it planted seeds for so many more important things that are happening. Yes, I'm talking about you, P. Diddy. And she is also part of the first all women of color team to win a Primetime Emmy Award in editing for a Black lady sketch show. Now, I could use this entire episode to continue telling you just her bio, but that is no good because she's actually here with us. So without further ado, welcome to Sista Brunch, Daysha Broadway Ace.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you came. Truly, this is like a dream come true because we got introduced by Pam Martin, who
Yeah.
is just an amazing person and mentor. And I remember then being like, would you be on Sista Brunch someday? So
Yeah.
we made it happen. We made it
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So we always love to start with our guests' journeys, and you can go back as far as you'd like, but obviously with such an incredible resume. And we kind of talked about this in the green room before, but you grew up in Compton. We
Hmm.
have another guest on season 6, Allison Faust, who also grew up in Compton. So I'm
Yeah.
starting to feel like there might be something in the water there that, like if we really uncovered all the people from Compton, there might be something there. But yeah, go back as far as you'd like and let us know, how did you end up getting all of these accolades and being the editor that you are today?
Yeah. There's a lot of us from Compton. Like
I
out here, it was
know.
my friend Tiffany Johnson is a director, um,
Yes.
who I've crossed paths with just coincidentally because we work with the same people. I think the last time we worked together was on How to Die Alone. She was directing an episode of How to
Oh,
Die Alone,
wow.
and we were talking. I was like, oh, this is our fourth episode of television together, and we're around the same age, and we lived around the corner from each other and never knew
No.
each other.
No.
Like, never knew each other.
What? So was the
Um,
first time you met when you worked on the shows together?
yeah, when
Wow.
we worked on 20s, I think it was she was
Okay,
doing
okay.
episode 3, I think.
Amazing.
And yeah, it was, and we kind of like Justin was like, oh, you both of y'all from Compton, and we were like, word. Uh, it just adds a another layer of oh, okay,
Yeah,
we gonna key. It's gonna
I
be
love
this is
it.
gonna be fine.
I love
And
it.
Ava DuVernay is from Compton. There's a
No,
lot
she's
of
not. I don't think I
yeah,
knew that. Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
There's a
I
lot of
should mention
people.
my husband is also from Compton and he's an
Okay,
editor as well. So,
let's
yes, yes.
go.
Even
Yeah, we out here.
some of the men are
Some of the
okay,
men.
and they, those ones too. We got to celebrate everybody. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, so I mean, growing up there, it was obviously interesting. I grew up in
Mm-hmm.
the late 80s, early 90s in
Okay.
Compton, so
Okay.
it was a difficult time, to say the least. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of it shaped who I am today, and
Yes.
but part of that was kind of like always staying inside because what was happening outside was
Mm.
my mom was like, you don't need to be out there.
Mm. Mm.
Um, and I had friends and I would go outside and play. And every time I did, I was always getting in trouble. And it was just like, but I was a nerd too,
Okay.
which didn't really fit the culture
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
in Compton.
Yeah.
No, I would get picked on a lot about just the nerdy things that I would say, but all of them had to do with film and television. Like I was just very deeply interested in like Robert Zemeckis films because it was around that time when like Back to the Future was out, and I would
Yes.
watch my grandmother's tape of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, the VHS tape, all the time because I was just like, this is crazy. Like, how did they do
Yes.
this? And
Yes.
I wanted to be involved. I think from a very early age. I didn't think I would. I thought that that was something unattainable because I didn't know anyone in the industry, and
Mm.
back then people especially kept saying, it's who you know, and I was like,
Mm-hmm,
well,
mm-hmm,
that's no one. So
mm.
how do I do that? And
Yeah.
but I would draw a lot as well, and I thought maybe I could be an animator. um I
Okay.
love drawing buildings. I thought maybe I can be an architect.
Mm.
Anything to not be a nurse, which was what my mom was, because
Okay.
I didn't have the stomach for it, and I didn't have that kind of like that brain. I was very creative, and I just couldn't do the math and anything like that. So, um, I tried to kind of swerve around the idea of becoming a filmmaker because I didn't think I would get in or it would make me any money. So
Mm,
I
mm.
went to undergrad at UC Riverside for computer engineering,
Oh,
and I just like
wow. Okay.
went
So
to
let's
the
talk about editing.
yeah
Like what, so where was, first of all, I have to say, I hope this isn't offensive. I love editors. I go to the Eddies as much as possible when
yeah
my husband is able to, when we can.
yeah
Um, and it's always like a room of slightly awkward people because a lot of what you which I love. This is the thing though. I love it.
yeah
This is why I'm married. One, like,
yes
because but like a little socially awkward, but
yeah
in this beautiful, like the community is so lovely. And part of it,
yeah
I think that's part of it, is there's this kindness there that is
hmm
certainly not there at any other awards show or event, because
very
it's
true.
mostly about competition and who looks best. And the
hmm
Eddies are like, folks are truly there to celebrate each other. And
yeah yeah
I was there that y'all got the Black Lady sketch show. I think you were at least nominated that year for the
yeah
Eddies.
we were
Yes, so
nominated
I got
yeah
to see you all up on stage, and because I
yeah
think you presented one. Anyway, I'm sorry, I
no
am
you're
nerding out because I love it. So
no,
yeah,
the year after, I didn't get an Eddie, but the year after, Stephanie Taylor
yes.
and Braden, they won it the year
Okay,
after. So they
that
were
was the
on
year I
stage.
was there.
Yes,
Okay, okay,
and Robin.
okay.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, okay. So, okay, I'm so sorry. So you were at UC Riverside, then you went to Chapman, but you ended up doing editing at Chapman. Where did you
Yeah.
learn editing at Riverside and learn that that's the thing you wanted to do, or did you, yeah, how did that?
I learned that that was what I was focusing on the most in the
Okay.
film classes because I was
Mm,
in computer engineering and then I would take all the film elective classes and every
okay.
question that I was asking my professors after class was like about the editing, but I didn't understand that that was a position, a job that someone could have and do, because
Let's
I
talk
just didn't
about
have that.
that.
Yeah, I had no idea.
How like even the and Zemeckis is amazing, right? And I think about
hmm
Spike, and I think like all the filmmakers that I admire, but and this is also what I've learned from being with an editor, is like, y'all actually the ones that really make the story.
We make
You
the
make the
thing.
thing.
Yeah,
They hand you a bunch of stuff
yeah,
and you actually make the thing. And so I'm
yeah.
thinking about, just as you were watching Back to the Future and putting together in your mind, like, how was that story actually put
hmm
together? And that's when, yeah, anyway, I'm sorry. I clearly,
Yeah,
it's like I
no,
could, yes, yes.
it's true because like when I think no one ever talks about it. Like I think any featurette that I saw, or like back when you used to buy DVDs and there was a featurette and like a
Yes,
behind the scenes,
yes,
always the director,
right.
always the director. And so you just think that that person just made the movie, and
Yes,
you don't because they don't put forward these other people.
right,
Um, if you don't have access to, like I said, I went to UC Riverside. There weren't people coming to talk there
right.
were no speakers. Um,
Mm, mm,
if I went to AFI, I probably would have had a different experience where like people were coming to like
right.
speak, and you would learn about all the, even when I got to Chapman, we had like a few, and I know they have way more now, and it's really
Yeah.
cool. Like I get emails
Yes.
all the time from alumni. It's like, who's going up there? Like it's really. But it's just like you didn't really know about the
Mm,
position
mm.
until the first time I learned about the position was really was Quentin Tarantino, because he always talked about Sally Menke, always talked about
Okay.
his editor, and
Okay.
I was like, okay, so this is like it's a collaboration, it's a relationship
Yes.
that he has
Yes.
with this woman who is killing it, because I loved all his movies and I loved the way she cut, and
And
so
like
I
you
was
said,
like,
this
okay, how do you
woman, because women were the first editors, weren't they?
right, yeah,
When they were cutting film, right? I was always like,
yeah.
somebody needs to do a documentary about that, just like women
Yeah, about
editors, because
Steamboats and all the others.
yes.
Yeah,
And we should mention that you won a Sally Menke fellowship.
yeah, that
It's
was
kind of
really
amazing.
nuts. Yeah, yeah.
This person that you knew of, right, that was working
Hmm.
with Queen, and then you won this fellowship that was named after her. So
Yeah, I was
anyway, just
deeply honored by that. I was
uh,
like, it's just because they had her namesake, and I got to meet every people who knew her. Um, it was really awesome to get that and to be like associated with that. And the other Sally Menke fellow winners of the past, we're all in like a group chat, and we all
oh,
like meet up when we can, and it's
yes,
very like comforting, and you get these like mentors. I got to choose mentors that I could talk to whenever I want, and
yes.
it's a great program that Sundance does.
Hi, Sister Brunch family. If you appreciate what you're hearing and learning on this episode, please do us a big favor and do one or all of these things. Follow us on IG at Sister Brunch Podcast. And while you're there, go ahead and comment on the episodes or on other posts. Love up on our guests. Let them know what you've learned from their episodes, how much you appreciate them sharing their stories. You can also support us by subscribing to the Trujulo YouTube channel, youtube.com/Trujulo Media. That's TRUJULO Media. And while you're there, take a look at those videos. You can see our guests' lovely faces. Maybe you're a visual person, and so you see the visual version of the podcast. We're also on TikTok at Trujulo Media. We truly thank you for supporting us. And then were you able to work just as soon as you finished grad school? How did that go?
Yeah, because while I was in grad school, I was down at the career center, constantly looking at the boards, seeing if there was internships I can grab or like something. I ended up working for Scary Spice at one point because she was looking for an assistant, a second assistant, and I was like, I'm not doing anything. And
Not like
while I was
second
in
assistant
school,
editor, but a second like a
like a
personal
personal
assistant.
assistant. Yeah,
Really?
yeah. And you believe it? Like there is growing up, I had my godmother Kendall lived in Sherman Oaks at one point, and
Mm-hmm.
so that was the only reason I was ever on that side of the
Okay.
hill.
Yes, yes,
But my
yes.
entire life, I was always on, like south of 10 freeway. It's just from South LA, that's where I'm from. And then I went
Yeah.
to school in UC Riverside. But working for Mel B was the only other time I actually went to the valley.
Oh my God.
Because she lived in at the time, I think, Topanga. And but I was in grad school, and so I was just like, oh right, this side of LA exists.
Yes.
That it didn't last long. I worked for her for like 2 months because I was driving from Orange County all the way to the valley
Yeah,
to
no.
work for her, and it was
Mm-mm.
like this isn't gonna work.
Mm.
But I also ended up interning at Bravo while I was there, and
Okay.
in that
In
space, I was
post.
able in post, yeah, I
Okay,
was able
okay.
to like assist and cut digital packages for their online presence, and like the housewives and things like that. And then that turned into a job, like a per diem job, when I graduated.
Okay.
And while I was working that per diem job, I was applying everywhere because again, I didn't know anybody really.
Yeah.
And so I was just applying, and it's a real testament to like you don't everybody doesn't get in here the same way, because I didn't know anybody. I literally went on the Buna Murray website and applied to be an assistant editor, and they called me because it said on my resume that I knew Avid, and they were switching from Final Cut to
Yes.
Avid at the time.
Yes.
And so I had an Avid certification that I got from Chapman. And
Okay.
so they hired me on Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I don't know what season
What?
it was. Yeah, I
I
know.
didn't even see that in your bio. Oh my goodness.
Oh, that's
Okay.
gone.
Maybe on purpose. All right. All right. Yeah,
I
yeah.
look,
Mhm.
I edited 24 episodes of that show. I and it's
Talk about getting your feet wet
bizarre.
though. I bet must have been a lot. Yes, and bizarre, is that what you
It's bizarre. It's because I mean, starting off in reality TV, I think is really good for anybody who
Yes.
is cutting. And I know a lot of people do that so that they can get their hours, so that they can get into the union,
Right,
so that
right.
they don't have to do reality anymore. I was like, but I don't think of it as like a bad word or a bad thing. I learned so much cutting
Oh,
reality TV because you're just doing things from really from scratch. You're like you have
absolutely.
to learn about story in a way that I think like you don't get from textbooks. Like
Yes.
you go in and you craft it with what you have, and
So
sometimes you
were
don't have
you
much.
full editor at that point, or did you when
No,
you okay, okay. When
yeah,
did
they
what was
hired me
your
to assist.
okay, okay.
Yeah,
Which is a
and then I
very
got
different
bumped.
job, right? Like
Yeah.
assisting is organizing the data, right? And getting it all
Hmm.
into naming it and, kind of is that right? Tell us more about the difference between because some people think, oh, assistant editor, I'm going to be an assistant to an editor, meaning going to get coffee or the
Right.
things that. But
Yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you want to talk a little bit more about what the assistant
I've
editor
never
does?
asked anyone to go get me coffee.
Yeah, oh,
I
you're
think
nice.
the post PA, I will
that's
ask to
yeah,
go
that's
get coffee.
yeah. They got
That's
to get you
their
lunch, and somebody got to get stuff to
somebody has
eat,
to do
and
that. Yeah.
yes.
That's kind of their position, but it's also different being an assistant editor in reality versus scripted. The
Okay.
it's the same, but there are different tasks throughout the day. So in reality TV, you would have to sync the dailies, right? Whereas in scripted, they are sunk at the finishing house, and then they come to you already. The audio is already sunk to
I
the
didn't
video.
know that. I didn't
So
know
yeah,
that.
so that's
Okay.
and I mean that's everything that I've ever been on. That's kind of been the difference that I noticed. But there's a lot more paperwork in scripted when you're an assistant editor. There's a
Okay.
lot of like music cue sheets and things to like keep up with and keep track of VFX
Okay.
trackers, like all these things you have to keep up with. You group the dailies. Well, usually the I'm sorry in reality TV you have to group the dailies. I remember being an assistant editor on The Challenge and having to group 27 cameras, and some of them were GoPros and they were shot at different frame rates, and it was just like
So
a
what does it mean to
madhouse.
group? What does and by the way, I love this. We'll switch our segments here and just get into Let's Talk Tech because this is so
Okay,
helpful, I think.
yeah.
So and the challenge. So in reality, you group. What does that mean to group?
So for to use The Challenge as an example, when I was on it, they had everyone was living in a house. I think they still do this. I don't watch it, but I think they still do this. Everyone's living in a house, so they have cameras set up everywhere, right? And it's
Right.
very much
Right.
like the real world, which I also
Okay.
worked on one season
Oh
for.
my gosh.
Which was yeah, that was nuts because I grew up watching that show, and then I was like on the
There you were
Portland
on it.
season.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was weird. Um, but yeah, so they'll have the cameramen walking around the house filming everyone, and then they have also like GoPros set up everywhere. And so it was the job of the assistant editor to take all of those cameras and group them together and sync the audio so that every angle is being picked up at the time that it's supposed to, if that makes
Ooh.
sense. And the audio is all sunk.
Yes.
And so it's like the editor can switch to any angle that's
Okay.
happening at that
And the
particular
audio
moment.
is immediate is there. It's sunk up, and so
Yeah.
they don't have to go back and do anything. The editor is
You don't have to
just
find the camera for this specific moment. It's all in one
so
group.
you
They
had like
have it.
27 separate pieces of
Yeah.
video sunk with audio.
Yeah. And there's transcoding involved if the frame rates were different, which I think back then on the GoPros they were. I don't know. We used to ask for them to like, please just do this. But I think even back then GoPros couldn't. They couldn't. I don't know. It was a mess. I don't even know if I'm explaining grouping correctly. I realize now I've never had to explain
No, no,
it.
no, that,
I've never actually
and
had to
that's the
explain what
thing
this.
too.
I
When
just
you're the
do it.
pro, you're just like, I'm just gonna do this thing. No,
Yeah.
I think I got it. I think I got a handle
Yeah.
on it. And even frame rates. You talked about frame rates. That's a good let's talk tech term as well. That for
Hmm.
especially assistant editors, you really need to understand because I mean we can talk about even with this show, right? Like we're recording this online on Riverside, and then if I were to ask you to use your phone to record something like, hey, this is Daysha Broadway, let's say we had you do that on the phone and then you sent it in to us, that's not necessarily going to match the what we're getting out of Riverside, right? Because maybe the
Right.
frame rates are different,
Yeah.
right? Is
The
that
frame
kind of
rates, the aspect ratios, like I think my phone, I can switch the frame rate of the video that I'm
yes,
recording.
yes.
Phones have gotten like much smarter now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, back when I was working on Kardashians, like we would sometimes like have this iPhone footage that was shot on a private jet, and it's shooting vertical back then was like a real problem.
Yeah, right, right,
It was a real
right.
problem. It's like, can you
Yes.
guys not just
Could
turn
you
the phone
please
sideways,
just put the
please?
yeah, no,
And
no.
it's just like no. But yeah, it was matching the frame rate because of the speed of which the camera is recording, but also uh, visually what it looks like. Like
Yes.
2398 is the film standard, and you
Okay.
can tell the difference between that and 60 or 2997. You can just like even visually you can tell the difference. But then
Well,
when you bring them
you could tell
into
the difference.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Or if
Right,
someone's
right.
if like a DP is creating a LUT or something like that, like
Oh,
you
see,
can
now
tell
you
the
said
difference.
LUT. Now you said LUT. Now you
I am
this
not
is
camera department.
LUT. Okay,
I know what a LUT is.
okay, okay,
I've never created one.
okay.
But I think yeah, like I think that once you start bringing footage into as an assistant editor, once you start bringing footage into uh, your non-linear, whether it's Avid, Premiere, or I think a lot of people use DaVinci now.
Hmm.
Um, the yeah, back then the Avid used to kind of just spit it out and be like, this is not the same frame rate
Okay, yeah.
as the
Take
rest
this
of the
back.
footage in this project.
It's not gonna work.
Premiere will say this timeline is 2398. This footage is 2997. Do you want to
Okay.
create a new sequence? And it's like, I want to
Nice.
put them. No, I want to put them together. And
We wanted you
we
to
want to
go.
put them together, and it'll just be like, no.
Not can't, no, can't
It'll
do
just
it.
it'll just say you can't do that. So
Ah,
so then the AE will convert it to the correct
I
frame
love
rate,
it.
and then when you upres, you have to convert it back.
What was your very first editing project where you were the full editor?
Well, there's Buna Murray was like it was a company. It was a big production company. So
Okay.
they always had some shows going on.
Okay.
And they knew I wanted to edit even though I was assisting, and they wanted to bump me up to editor on Kardashians, but I didn't feel like I was ready. Um
Okay, let's just tell our listeners, y'all don't do that. Don't do that. You are
That's
ready.
correct. Do
Let's
not
get
do
rid of
that.
this ridiculous imposter syndrome that tends to be only us who have it. Oh,
Yeah.
but, please
No,
continue. Like, right?
that's
You were ready.
absolutely
Yeah,
correct. I was
you were
ready.
ready. Yeah,
But
yeah.
I didn't I think contextually I didn't grow up with a lot of what is the word? Like encouragement in that department.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, I always felt like I had to do things so that we were okay.
Yeah, sure.
And
Absolutely.
so
So you're
that
like, I
never
gotta play
really
this safe. I can't take this
I can't
risk and mess
lose.
it up
Yeah,
because
because I
we
had
need this
seen
money.
people, I had seen assistant editors go from assistant editor to editing in that company and then get fired
Oh, there you okay.
because
Got you.
they couldn't cut it.
Got you.
And
Literally, right? I couldn't cut it. Yes, right,
I
right.
knew that was gonna happen.
Yeah, that was good. That was
I was like, I'm gonna hit
good.
him with a pun, and but yeah, no, I saw that happen, and I just didn't. I was like,
Okay.
I'm also just that as ever since I was a kid, I would be that person like preparing for school the next day in like third grade. just to and just so that if
Yes.
the teacher called on me, I had the answer. Like a psychopath.
Mm.
So just a total psychopath,
Yeah.
perfectionist, just crazy
Okay.
person. And so in that moment I was like, I'm not ready, but I absolutely was. But
Yes.
then I was sitting at my desk and got an email that Charlize Theron's company was they were working on a pitch for a show, a reality show that she wanted to do. And there was an email that to the producers that was like, if you guys know any of the assistant editors who could make the jump, we need to cut a sizzle for this, and we'll give them
Yes.
junior editing, whatever the heck.
Yes.
And I immediately replied and said, I want to do this, like just on
Yes.
autopilot, and not
Yes.
just tried not to overthink it, and just was like, I want to do it. And I did it. So technically, that was the first thing I ever cut.
Amazing.
And then after that, they bumped me to editing on credit. They were like, you can't go back to assisting.
Yes.
And so I ended up,
Were the
that's when I
may
started
I
editing.
ask and show my discriminatory nature? Were they women who said, "Now we're gonna turn you into an editor now," or was
So
it some men?
when I was at the company, I was the only black female person there. And there was a
Okay.
lot of people at this company.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
I've called them out on it, and they tried to be like, they went through like their Rolodex and was like, since the beginning of Una Murray, we have had X amount of black people, or da, da, da. But that like includes day players, it includes people who were
Right.
on the show. In post, there were no black executives, there were no like female executives except for one.
Oof.
And so at the time, I was working for white men who were great. I loved all of them. They were like, and they were always
Okay.
encouraging me,
That's
and
great.
because I was good, but it was because I showed up every day like I have to be perfect.
Yeah, right. Of course. You twice as good, right? And
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
no
And
one ever
and
told me that. I just felt that I had
yeah.
to
Yeah.
because I was
Right.
I was the only one here that looked like me, and I was like, I can't
Mm.
give them a reason to
Yeah.
be like, see, we don't need to do this.
Yep. Yep.
But
Okay.
none of those people I worked directly with ever gave me that like attitude or feeling that they were just
Mm.
waiting to fire me or didn't think I could do anything. They were very
Amazing.
encouraging.
That's great.
But there were other women in the company who were editors. They just weren't black women. So there were white women who
Okay.
were
Mhm.
cutting, but there was like 5 or 6 of them, and they were all like, "You gotta start cutting because we
Yes.
need more
Yes.
women here like cutting."
Good.
And they,
Okay.
they they were very encouraging. They
That's
were like,
great.
please, like you
Yes.
are ready, go do it. And then when I
Yes.
got bumped, they were so excited. They were like coming over to the
Yes.
office like, oh my
You
god,
did
you did it,
it. You got it.
you did
Yes.
it.
I love
Yeah.
it. Love it.
So
I
they were
love
always
hearing that.
very encouraging.
The,
Yeah.
again, I'm gonna just say it goes back. That's this community. There is, I feel like there's something different and encouraging in the. I don't know if I would call it the post community, the editor community. There just
Mhm.
feels like a sense of community. My husband was also in the ACE diversity program,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and it just yeah. I mean, she won a Peabody Award for a documentary that literally changed things systemically. She won an Emmy for a whole different genre, sketch comedy. Her Sundance Award-winning film is out in the world now, and you can see it. Is there anything our guest Daysha Broadway can't do? If you are enjoying this amazing episode as much as I am, please do us a favor. You know the drill already. Like, subscribe, share this episode with a friend or a colleague. Big up our guests on your socials. Tell the world about this phenomenal woman. All right, let's get right back into this episode with Daysha Broadway, ACE.
Yeah.
Financials. Let's talk about
Okay.
financials, especially from the editor standpoint. I know you're in MPEG and is the
Yeah.
guild, right? And then IATSE
Uh-huh.
700. But so I
700,
know
yeah.
there's like a scale of pay for y'all, but you
Mhm.
probably, once you get to the editor stage, you can probably negotiate. So anyway, tell
Mhm.
us about anything you're comfortable telling us about, and if it's ballparks, that's okay. But
Mhm.
financially, what can you charge? What do you get, etc.
Yeah. Well, when I was in grad school, I was like, okay, I'm gonna graduate soon and I'm gonna have this film editing degree. And I was like, what do you want? Like, what do you want? And so I
Yes.
put a sticky note on my monitor because I had Googled how much editor makes.
Okay.
And I found from the Google. And I think it was like 2009 or so. I don't know what year it is.
Okay, okay.
But Google said that if you were a really good editor, you can make $3,500 a week. And I was like, oh, that's a
You were
lot of
like,
money.
yo,
I was
what?
like, that's
You
crazy. So,
like, yes.
so I put
Nurses
that on
don't
a
make
sticky
that,
note. They
Ma.
don't,
Yeah.
right. If teachers made that, we would have so many more teachers. Um,
Mm, mm.
yeah, but that's another, anyway, teachers should make that.
Yes,
But,
yes.
and
Yeah,
so I put
right.
that sticky note, and that was like my motivation, like through school.
Nice.
It was like always on my
Nice.
monitor. It was like, you're gonna make 35. That's crazy. And then,
Yes.
I went to reality TV straight out, and as an assistant editor, I think I made 800 a week.
Okay, and you were like, well,
I was
okay.
like, so,
This is this
so I'm
super.
Googling again, and I found out how much Michael Kahn made editing Saving Private Ryan,
Okay.
which is some wild number, like $10,000 a week. And I was like, you know what? I was like, this ain't it. It ain't it. When I did that Charlize Theron pitch thing, it was $1,800 a week. That was the kind of bump.
Nice.
It was like, you're gonna be a junior editor. That's eighteen hundred
There you
dollars a week.
go.
I was like,
Yes.
we're getting closer. And then I
Yes.
started asking the other women who worked there, and I was like,
Yes.
what's the high end here? And it was $4,000 a week. It's
Okay.
like if you've been here for a very long time, this is what you can make.
Okay.
And I was like, what's a long time? I don't know. It's like commitment issues. I don't know how long do I gotta be here? And it was like,
Yes.
4,000, like the people they were making 4,000. Some people who had joined the union were making more. Um, and I was like, okay. And so I think when I switched to the union scale is more than what you are making in reality TV, even as an assistant editor. Um, and I was like kind of comfortable with that. And
Okay.
as an editor, I think my first check might have been around three a week, I think.
Nice. Okay. Okay.
It varies. I've obviously on I Want to Dance with Somebody, it was a big budget film. I made way more than that per
Yes.
week.
And
But
how
I
did
think
you
that like
negotiate that? Did you have an agent that negotiated for you?
at
Did
that
you
point I had an agent.
Nice.
At that point I had an agent.
Okay.
But even when I was at Bunim Murray, they would every year you would get a bump in your pay.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I was there for 6 years. Um, but every single year I was in HR trying to negotiate that bump.
Yes.
Every single year I was like, I
Yes.
know it's supposed to be this, but I also know I'm pretty high demand here. People want to work with
Yes.
me. Like
Yes.
I know these two producers are fighting for me on this next show. So what if we
Yes.
did this instead?
Okay.
And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But I've
Mm.
always tried. I knew what I was worth to that company. And then when I
Yes.
got outside of that, before I got an agent, I didn't get an agent until like right before we won the Emmy for a Black Lady sketch show.
Really? It took that.
Yeah,
Wow.
I didn't
Okay.
get one right away because I don't I do everything myself, and I'm used to doing everything myself, and
Yep.
the idea of
Yep.
paying someone to help me do what I was already
Yeah.
doing was like,
Yeah. You're
well, what
like,
am I
I'm
doing that
good.
for?
Why should you get anything for
Yeah,
this?
I was like,
Yeah.
I already have work. I can
Yeah.
get more work. I've at this point have met so many people, and all these amazing black women are giving me work. It's like Robin,
Yes.
Lena, Issa, like these black women are
Yes.
looking out for me. So
Yes.
it's like,
Yes.
why
You're
do I
like, I'm
need you?
good. I'm good. Yeah.
I'm good. But then
Yeah.
I'm happy that I hired them because especially my film agent Louisa is like really good with like like when we read scripts together, it's like, is this good?
Oh,
Like
nice.
should I do this?
Okay.
It's more than just the negotiation of pay. Like there's
Mm.
a guiding of the career that can happen if you have good
Nice.
agents.
Nice.
But yeah, so I started negotiating my pay before I got agents, but then when I got them, I was happy to let them do it.
Yeah.
It was like because I was like,
Yes.
I don't want to do it. It's really uncomfortable,
Yeah.
um, and I don't want to be the. I was like, you guys can be the bad guy. Like you just
Exactly.
take the fall for
Let me
everything.
focus on the creative. Let me right
Yeah,
and then and they can get you more money. I mean, they can
and they have.
then yep. By the time this episode comes out, Monster will have been out in the world.
Yeah, your month is
And
up.
so we will shout it out prior to that, but of course this episode will be out for Black History Month in 2025. So You just talked about that you and your agent read the script together. What was it about this story that made you feel like, oh, I can do this, or I want to do this?
Your monster was great because I read it and there was already a cut version of it, and the idea was that I would come on and recut the movie because
Okay.
with like the good old fresh eyes that everyone always says.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was great because I was like, oh, I know what this needs. Like I was like, because I
Nice.
it's about this woman who is a people pleaser and kind of a punching bag for the world, and she finds her inner voice and rage and decides not to push down the rage and kind of just like lets it out. And as an ex people pleaser myself, I
Yes, X.
I
Yes,
was
good for
I
you.
was like, I relate to this, and I remember the moment where I was like, no, I'm done with that. I'm not doing
Nice.
that no more. And
Nice.
I was like, it was a very relatable story for me, and it had magical elements and kind of fantasy elements, and I was
Okay.
really looking to get into stuff like that because,
Nice.
like I said, I was always obsessed with like Back to the Future, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That was the kind of movie that I wanted to make, just movie that
Yes.
people like would go and enjoy and not have to like think too much about. You just go and
Mm.
have fun, and
Mm.
it helps people escape their lives, but maybe they relate to the subtext of the movie, so
I love
they
it.
feel something. And I think
I
Your
love it.
Monster is that. Yeah.
You're a monster. Watch it, support it whenever you hear this episode.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so Daysha Broadway, you and your younger self are sitting
Mhm.
down to a sister brunch. What are
Mhm.
you both eating? What are you both drinking? And what do you tell her?
We are eating grits.
Yes. Yes.
We are eating grits,
Not sugar,
and
sugar or butter. I'm
I listen. I put sugar in my grits, and everyone can come for me if they want to.
Oh, she said it. She
I
admitted
don't
it.
care.
Really? Wow. Okay. You
I like
admitted
it both
that on
ways.
the show? Yeah, you
Yes,
too?
that's what I'm
Tasha.
talking about.
Must be a South Central thing. I don't know.
It's a South Central thing.
I love it. I love it.
I love a sweet and savory combo. Don't tell me I can only have one. I will have what I
No,
want to have.
okay. Yes, you will. Yeah, see, you did no more people pleaser. You don't care what people think
I
about
don't
you.
care.
You yes, okay, okay.
Listen here. Everyone has had a chocolate chip cookie with some sea salt sprinkled on it and been
True.
like, that's amazing.
It's really good. It's really
It's the
good.
same thing.
Okay, okay,
It's the same thing. But I
okay,
also like it the other way. I like shrimp and grits. I like just the savory shrimp. I like
okay.
the savory grits. I like it all.
All
But
right,
anyway,
all right,
that's
all
what we're eating.
right.
We're eating that, and I'm definitely pouring her a shot of something. It depends on how old younger Daisha is, but
Mm.
she deserves a
We could make
shot.
her drinking age. What's your favorite thing to take a shot of?
Peach Crown Royal.
Ooh, ooh,
Yeah.
ooh. I've never tried that. I'm gonna get that tonight. That's gonna.
Smooth. Everybody who's ever met me has ended up having to drink it around me, I think.
Okay.
Because it's like it's so smooth
Yes.
and taste it's dangerous. You have to be very careful. You will
Ooh, okay.
end up
Peach
drinking too much of
Crown
that.
Royal.
Peach
Okay.
Crown Royal. So I
Okay.
might give her some of that. And God, I would tell her to take some time to herself. Like
Mm,
go just where your happy place is, and you should go there more often,
okay.
and trust that you are always going to be okay because you have you, like no matter what, and you know who you are. Like that's the thing is, like I think even in college, I think I was very motivated, very ambitious, and
Mm,
was always going to make sure I landed on my own 2 feet, no matter what the situation. Um, but was always stressed as hell about it.
mm,
Instead of just trusting that, I know that I could take care of things and everything's going
mm,
to be okay. Like,
mm.
and everything is going to be okay. Like I said, it depends on the age. If this is like tiny Daisha, I would just give her a big old hug.
Yes.
She needed a
Yes.
hug.
Mm.
If this is college Daisha, like my God, calm down.
It's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay.
Let
It
it go.
really
Let some of
is.
that go. Let some of that. And the ambition is there, isn't it? It's inside of you anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
It's
So
not
just
going anywhere.
enjoy.
Like who you are is someone who's gonna make sure you're okay. So
Mm.
stop doubting that. Stop doubting that. I think that there are things you can't control, and they will always be things you just can't control. So let those things be and trust you and control what you can, and that's it.
Daysha
Okay.
Broadway, Ace.
Okay.
Thank you so much
Of
for coming on
course.
Sister Brunch. We're so proud to have you on.
Thank you for having me. This was therapy.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Season 6 of the Sista Brunch podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Sista Brunch is brought to you by Trujillo Productions and was created by Anya Adams, Christabel Nciabwadi, and me, Fanshen Cox. Our producer for Season 6 is the lovely Tasha Rogers. Sista Brunch is recorded on the unceded territory of the Tongva and the Chumash people in Los Angeles, California. Thank you so much for listening, following, reviewing, and subscribing, and we will talk to you next week.